Hello there, lovely people. It's Alex from Nintendo Life here, and today we're reviewing for you Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2 on the Nintendo Switch. And this review was originally written by me, so I don't have to thank anyone else. But anyway, that's more than enough waffling. Let's dive right into things. 2 years after the release of Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl, the Nicktoons have been thrust together once again in the name of licensed platform fighting of all things in Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2. The original was a solid outing with deep mechanics, but was held back by a lack of polish outside of its gameplay. And although history isn't exactly repeating itself with the sequel, it certainly rhymes. Anyone familiar with the first game will immediately notice something different about the fighters. They all feel a lot heavier. Rather than zipping around at lightning speed, each and every character has been slowed down considerably, giving more weight to each movement, but also a bizarre floatiness in the air with serious momentum on the ground to boot. It would be completely unfair to call the controls slippery, but the ultralight feel has definitely been lost somewhat. As we said, this does mean that attacks have notably more weight and impact to them, so there's something of a trade-off at play. Characters do have more abilities though, now able to dodge left, right, or on the spot out of a shield, and a new ultimate attack that fills the screen and deals massive damage and knockback to any foe caught within its blast. Yeah, if any of that sounds a little familiar, then you've probably played a game in the Super Smash Bros. Series. The original Nickelodeon Brawl wasn't shy about its inspirations, but it still managed to have its own identity and distinctions from Nintendo's colossal crossover fighter. Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2, on the other hand, says to hell with it and decides to mimic as much as it can. That's not to say that there aren't things that make it stand out. The new slime meter can give you more powerful attacks, save you from being unceremoniously yeeted from the battlefield, and enact that ultimate attack that we mentioned that we promise doesn't smash and absolutely isn't final. It's a neat addition that will raise the skill ceiling, but the fighters' movesets have also been altered so as to bring that skill cap back down a bit. Many of the madcap moves that the likes of Nigel Thornberry and Ren and Stimpy employed have been replaced by a more standard fare of clobbering techniques. This undeniably makes the game more straightforward and less confusing when picking up a new character for the first time, but it's lost some of its originality and edge in the process. It's still fun and responsive and no doubt makes balancing easier, but some of the chaotic magic is gone. Where Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2 does improve things is in its single-player offering. The new campaign mode has you trekking through a roguelite-esque series of levels in order to stop the evil Vlad Plasmius from controlling the minds of everyone in the universe or something. The plot's fairly thin, but there are some frankly delightful character interactions that can occur as a result. We particularly loved an exchange between the now sadly NPC powdered Toast Man and a besotted Ren and Stimpy. There are at least a few longtime Nickelodeon fans in the writing team, and it shows. The gameplay of this new mode is a slightly less exciting affair. I mean, it's not bad by any means, but it wears thin disappointingly quickly after the 6th bout of fighting minor bot characters as they spawn repeatedly, and sometimes they don't even throw themselves to their own doom or just start doing this. Boss fights are a pleasant change of pace, but there aren't as many of them as we'd like, so you're gonna be fighting the Flying Dutchman an awful lot. But there's an enormous elephant in the room separate from the one used in Nigel Thornberry's Ultimate. And you're watching the video review for this, so you already know what it is. Yeah, the game runs at 30 frames a second on Switch. For a platform fighter, frankly for any kind of fighter, this is bordering on a death knell. But the visuals have had a big step up at least. This line doesn't work in the video. No, they haven't. The game looks rough and runs rougher. The static camera and limited models on screen should make optimization a breeze, at least compared to something like an open-world RPG or something to that effect, but that apparently wasn't enough. Docked, the game is fuzzy or pixelated at best, with no shadows and basic lighting, characters look flat and lacking in detail, and when playing handheld, you can experience all of that, but at an even lower resolution. Loading screens for a single fight can take in excess of 30 seconds, and if you're doing a 4-player bout, it can be a minute, and frame drops on certain stages in particular are frequent and expected, even if you've only got 2 fighters on screen. The menu music doesn't always loop properly, there's no way to select custom controller bindings in certain modes, and as for the ultimate moves, well, they're fun in theory, but they seem to be missing certain sounds or something, lessening their impact considerably.
Gotcha!
The initiator's one-liners also sometimes get cut off early or come in too late. NPC fighters from the campaign sometimes have zero animation when caught in the blast, making them slide around like confused chess pieces. These issues reek of a game that is still in development rather than a finished product. And it is a crying shame, as just like with its predecessor, there's a really solid game under here, possibly even more matured, if a little less distinct as I said, but it's buried under so much chaff that it spoils everything and frustrates far more than it entertains. Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2 has the potential to be a strong platform fighter, but on Switch it's wrapped up in a frankly incredible amount of poor performance and presentation. Fighters feel weightier and the new campaign adds context and charm to the package, but it'll take a miracle patch to save it from being a choppy, blurry, flat-looking barrel of disappointment on Nintendo's console. You've reached the end of the review, and that means, well, usually it'd be time for Alex's personal thoughts. Obviously, I wrote this review, but I do still want to cover a few additional notes. I've played not only the Switch version now, but also the Steam version, specifically on my Steam Deck, and yeah, there are still some issues on the Steam Deck at the very least, but it shows what the game could have been, at least on the Switch, and it's so disappointing because the Steam version, as I say, it's not perfect. There are still issues with it. It still has frame drops. I have to turn things right down, like optimization still isn't good, but it's so much more passable than it is on Switch. The game is fun underneath. It really is fun, and you know, it's not a smash killer or anything like that, but it's a good, solid platform fighter, and certainly on the Steam version, I had good fun. You know, it didn't blow my socks off, but I had good fun. Which makes this whole situation just doubly more tragic, because there's... oh god, why? I think if it just had, I don't know, more development time, maybe more money put into it, something to just increase the quality overall, maybe, I don't know, better optimization and sort of like trying to pare things back a little bit in terms of like the background visuals, because sometimes the backgrounds are a little bit too busy. It's not distracting or anything, but I don't know, it just feels a bit unnecessary. Patches may be able to fix some things in the future, but there are still issues in the Steam version, which kind of suggests that maybe there are some optimization issues that go deeper and further beyond just the Switch version, and are just there in general. I don't know. I'm keen to see what the game is gonna evolve into as time goes on and patches are released, DLC and stuff like that, but the Switch version especially, I don't know what they can do to fix it. It just feels too riddled with issues. Please prove me wrong. I'd absolutely love to be proven wrong, but I just don't see it. And right now, flat out, can't recommend the Switch version at all.